And I am joined today by Elba Luz, who is talking with me about her brand new book, Build a Girlfriend, which comes out on the 14th of January. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you. I'm so excited to talk to you.
It's always lovely to talk about a brand new book, and I believe this is your first as well.
Yes, she's my debut.
I love the cover. I think that it reminds me of I think it was called Fashion Wheel or something we had when back in the 1980s, and it was a game where we basically had the head, the body, and the shoes, and you could design it only using the fashion wheel.
No, I love that so much. Yeah. Betsy, who was my cover artist, did an amazing job. And I love it. I used to play on this website called like My Scene, and it had games where you could like change like the girl's clothing. And this
Oh
is like
yeah.
very reminiscent of that. And it's so colorful. It's so fun. She did an amazing job. I love it.
Oh, it's definitely, as the first time I saw it, I thought that's Fashion Wheel. Because of course I'm a teen of the 80s, so that kind of game, we didn't really have computer games and the internet and
Mm.
everything else until I was in my early 20s.
Oh, I love
That
that
really does
though.
date me.
You got it.
So
You
could you
saw it and you were like, nailed it.
yeah, it's perfect, and it really does, I think, fit the story. So for people who aren't aware, can you tell us a little bit about the story and
Oh.
about Amelia and her family?
Yes, of course. So, Build a Girlfriend is about 18-year-old Amelia. She just graduated high school and she's in a relationship with this girl. And it goes wrong like all of the relationships in her life because her family has the Hernandez curse, in which nobody can keep a partner. And so Amelia wants to break the curse and she goes on an ex retrospective of sorts, where she redates some of her past flames and tries to become the perfect girlfriend and also get revenge on her ex of all exes while doing it.
That's the thing. I mean, I loved the story, and I really did love the relationship that she had with her sisters, especially Sophia. Marisol was a character, but Sophia was almost like, not the, I wouldn't say the anti Amelia, but she was very different, very sensible and logical in her behaviors. Whereas
Yes, thank
Amelia
you.
obviously is very, very much more emotional.
Yes, thank you so much. I love when people say that they love Sophia because she is it outside of Amelia, she is my favorite character in that story. I'm a sister. I'm a sister of five, and so sibling relationships mean a lot to me. And in particular, I'm really close to my older sister. And so I knew when I wrote Sophia, she had to be someone who not anti Amelia in the sense that she's against her, but yeah,
Oh
she
no.
kind of is such a great balance to her, and there's also like this kind of unwavering support that you get from a sibling no matter what. And Sophia really is like a foundation and just someone so steady for Amelia. And oh, I love her so much. She's so fun. She's so brave. And yeah, she was one of my favorite characters to write. Originally, it was just gonna be Marisol, and like in one of the first drafts, and while we were kind of editing and things like that, we were like, something, it just feels like something is missing. And Sophia was that missing piece. And so it's really good to know that she resonated with
That's the
you.
thing. She's Amelia's sounding board, the one
Yes.
who gives her the sensible solutions and logically argues her way through Amelia's feelings. So it's sort of like she's not dismissing them. And I loved the fact that she was listening to her and trying to offer her answers and solutions that weren't going to be, well, if you do this, it's going to be this. She was like, well, you could do. I mean, I'm the oldest of three. I have a younger brother and a younger sister. But obviously, and we're quite close in age. There's
Mm.
only 3 years between me and my youngest and the youngest sibling. My mum had us very, very close together. And I look at these sisters and they have this, it's not an idealized relationship because obviously there are still siblings don't always get on.
Yes,
You are,
they
especially when
really
you're
don't.
heightened emotionally and hormonal and everything else, there are moments where it's like, go away, please. Leave me alone. Just let me process. And you see that far more with Amelia and Marisol because Marisol obviously adores her big sister. There is that clear, I'm going to follow you around and mirror everything you do that comes off her. And I think
Yeah.
it's really sweet.
Yeah, it's really sweet. And when I wrote them, I wanted it to be like, yes, they're siblings and maybe they kind of butt heads, but there's always just like this underlying affection towards everything, especially with Marisol, because when you think of like a little sister, I'm the youngest. So you're seen as the pest, you're seen as the shadow. Even like when you don't want to be, but there's always affection. And so when you see Amelia and Sophia and how they kind of act around Marisol, they're very aware of her. They're very sweet to her. They're always like, if they're cursing, they're like, cover her ears. Like they're very protective and kind of just like see her in such a light, and they see each other in such a light. And then we have in Build a Girlfriend, because this is spoiler free, but there's the aunts in the family and they're all sisters. And even that dynamic, they banter a lot more. But there's still like this underlying bit of affection and this really solid relationship where they can bite each other's heads off, but if anyone else was around or if they needed anything, like they're going to support them no matter what. And I think sibling relationships are so beautiful in that way. And I really wanted to showcase that in Bag,
I think it's that case
and
of,
which I always call Bag by mistake. I can't get it out of me. Yeah.
I think that's it though, isn't it? You've got that balance because I can say what I want, she's my sister, but woe betide anybody outside of the family saying anything, you will get my claws in your face.
Exactly.
And I think that's the way a lot of families work. You'll hear that banter and that, oh, I can't believe you did that to me, you cow. And then somebody else will say it and you'll go, excuse me?
Yeah, it's only okay if I say it, but if
Yeah.
you say it, you're dead.
It's sort of like the friend with the bad relationship. The bad relationship ends. You say, "Oh well, I never liked him." They get back together. I can't believe she said that about you.
No, yeah, yeah.
It's what I love, but the banter, especially with the aunts and their mother and everything else, is because it's almost as though they are a mirror of who these four siblings, including obviously the baby Zoe, are going to end up being. But at the same time, Amelia doesn't seem to really want that. Partially because she's seen how hard. I think because she's seen how hard it is.
Yeah. Thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, Amelia was so fun to write because something that I really wanted to have in Bag is that you can be so supported by the people around you and you can feel so much love for your family, and the family could have these traditions and these beliefs that have been happening for years and years, and you can feel okay with wanting to do something different. Um, and so that's kind of Amelia's journey, is that she's been faced with these ideals and beliefs in her family who she loves so deeply. Like it's not like she doesn't love them and she wants to leave them or anything. Um, but she's just kind of like, is it okay to break these traditions? Is it okay to, in what she thinks, disappoint the people around her who have done nothing but give her anything she could want. And so I wanted it to be, no spoilers, but I really wanted it to be her journey into her realization, like if it's okay, and like not just Amelia, it's the whole family kind of gets their own realizations, and like what family is and what a gift it is, and how we should look at our own ideals and how we should look at each other and how we should be seen.
Absolutely. I think that obviously the whole thing starts with that scene with Perry and Amelia. And there were moments, you think it's going to be so romantic. And it really did feel like oh, this isn't leading where I thought it was going to go, when she takes her somewhere beautiful and romantic and
Yeah.
then dumps her. It's like, um, right. Well, that was nasty.
Yeah, that was really interesting to write, because when I was writing it and I was writing it with my agent, like in the very first drafts, we always knew that first scene was going to be a breakup scene, but we wanted it to be really, of course, funny and light, but also like you're really like, you want to feel what Amelia feels. And she's like, this is perfect. This is everything. Nothing can go wrong. Like, this is such a sweet relationship. And it was. And
We
so
reached 6 months. It's been going great.
yeah, and so another thing with Build a Girlfriend is that you get to see a couple different kind of relationships dynamics that she's been through and how we kind of see those relationships. And some of them, like Perry, is they work out or they don't, but it doesn't have to be on the worst terms. Though the way it happens, it's kind of it's rough. It's rough for her that first couple chapters.
Yeah, I think there's a kind of balance between breaking up with someone via text message
Yeah,
and taking them to a beautiful romantic location and saying, "Oh, we're through."
yeah.
There's that
She
happy balance. Maybe take them for a burger somewhere.
Yeah, maybe in a future relationship, Perry will do a little better.
So that's the thing. I mean, because obviously that is the catalyst for everything that happens afterwards. And the curse, it obviously everybody has this. Well, I'm cursed to have this because my mum had that and all of my aunts had that. But she's making her own destiny. And I really did enjoy the fact that you see her going, right, well, this isn't what I want. I'm going to change it. I've just got to figure out how to do it.
Yeah, and Amelia is so amazing in that way because when I think of Amelia, she's very complex. So she is she's not cowardly, but she is afraid of a lot of things. Like she's afraid of not breaking the curse. She's afraid of her own insecurities, but she's so brave that everything she does is despite her insecurities and despite being afraid. And so she's like simultaneously so scared of everything, but so brave to push through all of that. And that's one of the reasons that she is just one of my favorite people I've ever written. She's just so complex and nuanced and just so lovely and charming, even when she's giving you secondhand embarrassment. She's just great.
That's the thing. I think the courage is shown in so many ways. And then obviously you get that moment where we're going to be very blatant with the she is courageous on that disaster date where she does the bungee thing.
Yes. um, Fun fact that is based on a date that I actually went on. And
Really?
I did the basically there's a date that happens and it's like a high ropes adventure course where you're up in the trees and things like
Yeah,
that.
no
And
thanks.
that's based off me. I got stuck. It was not a good time. I was up there, and
Is it
so that's
something that
really
people can now search for on YouTube?
that. No, you can search my sister's phone and her social media, and you will see me hanging. If you search hard enough.
Oh
But
no.
yeah, that is a real date.
That sounds like an absolute disaster date.
It was. It was.
That's the thing. Did you use a lot of inspiration from friends and your personal life? Well, not personal life, but your personal experience in creating Amelia's story.
Some of it, yes. Some of it, which might be sad, right? Because I'm pulling from like the crazy dates, but some of it is definitely things really loosely, because I am nowhere near courageous or cool as Amelia. But like the settings and like things like that are based on like things that I've done. I have taken from my friends unwillingly. They're gonna read it and they're gonna be like, Elba, how dare you? But their names aren't in there, so they'll be fine. But yeah, a lot of inspiration from my wacky friends and my wacky life.
Well, that's it, isn't it? They say, write what you know.
Yeah, yeah.
And if you have those I mean, that date sounds like my idea of a really bad nightmare because I'm not very good with heights at all. I think that I blame that on the fact that I didn't even reach 5 foot. I really do. It's like I'm happy being on the ground. I don't even like wearing heels. The idea of walking downstairs in heels terrifies me.
I understand. I'm 5'9". I'm tall. I'm tall. So to
I'm
me, I'm also
4'11.
scared of heights, but I love a course and also really competitive. So if you tell me you want to do something, I'm gonna be like, yeah, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna be the best one. And so that's what happened. And then I got caught. So that
Yeah,
was
but
on me.
that's it. That is the moment with Amelia. She's like, I'm going to prove I can do this because people are you sure you want to do this? You're scared of heights. It's like, watch me.
Watch. And then that ended up a little,
Yeah,
I
and
know
then
she's a
see
little
me
upset.
on
Yeah.
trending on social media for it.
But Amelia, the best person she is, she'll power through.
That's it. I mean, she's not. I think one of the things that she is, obviously, she's working towards trying to gain some distance as well. So the idea that she's not going to be able to do that because of everything that has happened, and she's not as. I mean, she's constantly saying, I'm not as intelligent as Sophia. She's going to be able to do this and she's going to be able to do that. So she already feels this kind of emotional, not dissatisfaction, but lack of ability.
Yeah. And she sees it a lot with Sophia, I think, because they're so similar in age. And she also has this kind of complex view of her where she loves her, she adores her so much. But Amelia is technically the older sister, and to see your younger sister be this person that you admire so much, there is this kind of underlying thing of just like, oh, like how come I'm not at that level yet? How come I'm not that smart? How come I'm not that charming? Like, what is it about me? And she sees Marisol and she knows that she's going to grow up and be like a genius. She sees the aunts and how confident they are and how secure they are with themselves. And she just, though she is filled with so much love and these amazing figures around her, it's also this constant reminder of all the things that she feels currently that she's lacking. And it just kind of magnifies that for her.
It's insecurity.
Yes.
And it's not helped by looking at her past dating experience and not seeing one moment where it's been successful. And then, of course, we have to talk about the elephant in the room, that is Leon.
Leon,
We have
Leon.
to. He plays such a huge part in everything from the point they meet again when he's working with his dad on their on the Hernandez cafe.
Yes.
Talk about being thrown in at the deep end. Oh, here's the person that really destroyed your heart, and we're working with him.
And so, yeah, you have all these insecurities, and then it's you're constantly getting broken up with in relationships, and then you see the ex of all exes, the person that out of all your relationships you felt the most love for, and you're like trapped with all these figures and all these emotions, and Leon isn't helping her because he is very actively seeking her out, and they keep kind of meeting each other, because of course this is a rom-com. But I adore Leon so much.
That's the thing. I think that you're given, when you first meet him, the horror that Amelia feels at, oh, why is he here?
Mm-hmm.
Why am I seeing him? How can I escape this? I don't want it. And you slowly see that while she is not necessarily happy to see him, there's also a part of her that is happy to see him. So there's this conflict within her that, as you said, he's not helping.
Yeah, he's definitely not helping, or is he? Dot dot dot. Spoiler free zone. But I think, yeah, Leon and Sophia are very interesting when it comes to Amelia's journey, because we have Sophia, who's a sibling and loves her so much and really wants her to view herself in a certain way. And we also have Leon, who, from a romantic standpoint, I think there's only things that you can see within another person when you're in a relationship with them, or certain things that you only see like when you're with someone for so long in a romantic sense. And so he's viewing Amelia and seeing her trying to do these changes, but he doesn't really hate who she was. And so it was really cool to write Leon as another factor in that. And then we haven't mentioned it yet, but to bring up something else that happens in the book is that there is a Hernandez romance boot camp. And so basically, because Amelia gets dumped, Sophia takes the initiative to make this romance boot camp that she goes through. She makes PowerPoints, she makes notes, she has lectures, and all the family is involved. So her sisters, her aunts. And so every lesson is a lesson on, romance and what you can do to be the perfect partner. And it's really great because it's not Sophia and the family trying to change her, but trying to work with the skills she already has and really highlights it. And so that's another way that Amelia gets pushed throughout the story, is that she has this romance boot camp sprinkled in where they're trying to help her break the curse, and Leon is there. And what perfect situation to see if you've broken the curse is to see if you can get your ex to fall back in love with you, and that's Leon.
Yeah, it's also about getting her to accept herself,
Hmm.
because that's one of the things that I think that she struggles with. It's like there is a failing within me, and it's like I'm the common denominator. They all broke up with me, our relationships didn't work. And that is the natural assumption, is that you are the person they broke up with and they all broke up with you. Whereas it could be something inherently wrong in them. And I think that's where, as a, well, in general, that's where you start questioning who you are as a person. And I know that I did the same. And I've got an expensive pair of earrings on the table over there, and
Totally
she
understand.
decided that she was going to eat them. Yeah, sorry about that.
Oh, no worries. I'm
All
really
I could see
surprised my
was she
dog
was
is so
going
well
to.
behaved. So,
Yeah, all I could see was she was going to try and take my earrings with her. That would have been a disaster.
attention
But
seeking
yes, oh,
behavior.
absolutely. That's the thing. I think with Amelia and her inherent lack of security in herself, her family is trying to build that up when they introduce the idea of the boot camp, rather than you've got to change the way you dress, you've got to change your hair, you've got to change your attitude. It's more, you've got to believe in yourself.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that that is really what comes across as a lesson in the book, is it's not them or you, it's a combination of all of these things, and you don't need to change to make people like you more.
Yeah. Thank you so much for understanding that. I really want that to come across, because when I was creating the romance boot camp, it never was anything that Amelia was flawed. It wasn't that Amelia, needed to change the way she looked. It wasn't that Amelia had this horrible personality. At the basis of it, Amelia is just like this wonderful, really insecure girl. And so all these people who see her, they love her, and they're just so confused as to why she doesn't see herself the way they see her. And so when you have all these things in the romance boot camp, they're picking at things that they know Amelia is. They know Amelia is funny. They know Amelia is charming. They know Amelia makes people feel good. So they're really highlighting like these moments and being like, you do this already. Like, why don't you let that shine? Like, why don't you focus on like how you do it and like when you do it? Like, you are a good girl. You are so good and you are so wonderful, and that is what the boot camp is about. It's about her loving herself in really basic terms. They want Amelia to love herself because they think she deserves it and they love her.
That's exactly it. And also, a lot of the fact that that insecurity that she has about herself and her own negative perceptions of who she is are in a way contributory factors to the reason why her relationships have failed in the past, because she has this doubt, this I'm not good enough, oh, the curse is going to be the end of my relationship. And it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah, and all those wonderful things about Amelia, because she's so insecure in these relationships, she doesn't really show them. And so she doesn't show like how fun she is. She doesn't show every part of herself because there's always this nagging feeling of just like it's gonna end anyway, probably, isn't it? And so it really affects her relationships. Um, and so that's another factor into all of that too.
Definitely. So, with these characters, obviously, was there anything that you sat down and you said, well, I want, in my head, I see her as being like this person I know, or that person in that TV show, or, oh, well, Leon, he's inspired by the guy that I saw in the gym.
I don't know what this says about me and my life, right? But Leon is way too perfect to be any person I was in a relationship with. Uh, so he
It,
is fictional. Typical, a great man, fictional.
that's
Um,
sad.
so he's definitely not. But I have a lot of siblings, but I'm also a niece, and I have like 11 titis, and so I knew I wanted a big family. It's
I have
really
three.
condensed. Yeah, I don't know. My grandparents they want a lot of kids. I
My
don't know.
great-grandparents were like that, but my
Mhm.
grandparents, no.
No.
Not at all.
They have, well, I have a lot of them, and so I absolutely wanted it. And nobody is based on anyone except Titi Ivy is based off my Titi, who I love so much, who's always been like really fun and really just like, when you saw her, you always thought she was like 20 years younger than what she was, and she was always really funky. But ironically, I think I had a reason for doing this. Titi Ivy is based off my Titi Sandra, but there is a Titi Sandra in the
Yes.
book, and she's not based on her. And I think I wanted to pay tribute to my aunt and I wanted her to be in the book. But when I was writing Titi Sandra, it was clear that they weren't the same. But my Titi Sandra is like one of the highlights of my life. And so, because Titi Sandra in Build a Girlfriend is really one of the solid figures of the family, I wanted that to be like my tribute, to be like, you are a foundation for me as Titi Sandra is there. And then Titi Ivy is who Titi Sandra really is based off of. But I think it was too hard for me to write with my real Titi in mind. So I kind of swapped the names a little bit.
Were they always going to be called these names, or did you change them at any point? Because I know
Oh,
that sometimes people go, "Oh, well, originally she was that, and then I had to go through and do a search and replace because I changed my mind about their name."
no, I'm actually really funny. I have this friend, Kaylee Smith. She's also an author, and she takes so much care with picking out names. Like, she will research for weeks, and me, I don't. If I'm writing, I think of a name and I put it. And I don't put that because, to me, if I thought of it instantly, that's it. Like, that felt right. And
Gut
so
instinct.
everyone, yeah, everyone who's named there, they're just named there. I put 30 seconds of thought into it because, to me, my first instinct, I'm like, you're right. That sounds good. So all of them were named immediately. And that was that.
So there's no special meaning behind the names. They are literally, these are the names those characters are going to be, and that's it.
Yeah, I just had like a special feeling for them and I just picked them. Except, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, Leon, I got that name. I love video games and I love RPGs, and Final Fantasy VIII, the main character's name is Squall Leonhart, and I did pull Leon from that game. And so that is from there. And I just love the name. Like, Amelia, I love Sophia. Yeah. I think randomly Leon is the one who got the most thought, and I don't know what that means, but he did.
I mean, he has a big role to play,
Yes.
and his role is very different from everybody else's.
Yeah, he's very, yeah, that's a good point. Maybe it is that, because Final Fantasy, Leon is like the protagonist and he really helps kind of guide everyone around him. And so Leon in this book is helping guide Amelia.
Though not necessarily intentionally.
Not intentionally, no. He is just there, spoiler free, but when he guides her, it's out of, who knows, affection, obligation, love, who knows? Gotta read to find out.
That's exactly it, isn't it? I think that there is so much happens in this book at at multiple moments. There's
Mhm.
no point in the book where you sit there and you go, well, okay, that bit's ended. What's the next bit?
Yeah, there's no
Because
dilly dallying.
I've read multiple books where there is almost like a natural pausing point, and you can go, okay, so now we're on to the next phase of the story. Because while obviously the moment where Perry and Amelia break up is almost like a stopping point, the rest of the story flows as Amelia grows, as she does the boot camp, as she re-meets up with Leon, unwillingly or otherwise, and Sophia is teaching her about who Amelia is, yes, with the support of the rest, though she is the lead in all of it.
Yes.
And I like the fact that it's almost as though Sophia is learning about herself at the same time, or rather, Amelia is learning about Sophia at the same time, because she has this perception of Sophia as the popular girl who's always got everybody wants to be friends with her. She's super intelligent, but she's not seeing beneath the surface. And Sophia is finally letting her do that.
Yeah. Thank you so much for bringing that up, because another really important theme in Bag is like how you're seen, how you see yourself, but how you view the people around you that you love. And so for a lot of the journey, of course, it's Amelia's story and we're going to focus on her. But sometimes I think when you're so wrapped up in you and your own insecurities and how you see, you kind of misjudge or you lose sight of the people around you. So she sees Sophia and everyone around her in such a light, in such an amazing way. And it's particularly Sophia. She's like, yeah, you are so beautiful. You are so smart. You are so radiant. I am none of these things. You don't know what it's like to be insecure. You don't know what it's like to not have that. And then when you really think about it, how do you not know that Sophia is not feeling all those things? The same way that Amelia has the capability to hide things from her family, Sophia does as well. And, it's just a really interesting way to view it. And Sophia, when she's doing it, it is all completely out of love for her sister. She wants her sister to be her best self, but it's also a part of her own journey and how she can see herself. And she's kind of putting a lot of effort into Amelia because maybe she feels certain things about herself that she knows to look out for, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because she talks about popularity and how people want to be around her and how that's not exactly how it is from the outside looking in. It may be amazing, but it isn't necessarily that way when you're living it.
Yeah.
And I loved the way that it kind of twisted that whole popularity thing on its head. My sister was the popular one in our family. I was the bookworm that stuck in the library and monitored detention. So that made me incredibly popular at school, whereas my sister was athletic and made friends very easily, which I've never done. And I always looked at that with a tiny bit of envy, but at the
Hmm.
same time, I did think, do I really want that lifestyle? Do I really want all those people around me all the time? And the answer was no, thank you.
Yeah. I too, I was not like unpopular, but my sister was just like this beautiful, radiant, charming, like she was prom queen. Like she was like this amazing figure. And so it is really interesting when you see like their dynamic. And you, even when I was writing it and I was writing Sophia's kind of emotional arc, I kind of was like, did my sister feel this way? Like, am I missing things about my sister because I view her in such a way? And so I took great care in their relationship and their emotional journey. More, of course, Amelia, she is the main character, but Sophia definitely after. I took care of her because she was just so dear to my heart.
I think the characters are so well rounded and they're so real because of that. There isn't that you don't sit there and go, well, I don't know anybody like that, because in all likelihood you do know someone. Either you are Amelia or you know someone who's exactly like her, and it's you start to also question, well, does she feel this way, or is this why I feel this way?
Hmm.
And maybe I need to look at the qualities I have and listen to what people are telling me, because people had been telling her all these things. And her family, as you said, they shower her with so much love that this household is just full to overflowing with it. And they aren't bothered about the little faults. They're focusing on, this is what you have to offer. You are an amazing person. And all she's seeing is the faults that she perceives herself to have.
Yeah, and I
It's like
think,
that whole confrontation with Perry where Perry says, "Oh, we're over. I'll drive you home now." It's like, "No. No." And I actually sat there thinking, if she got in the car with her now, she'd lose any iota of self-respect she had.
yeah, I think that's a great point. And when I was writing Amelia, I really kept in mind her age and where she was in life and like kind of bridge between when you're just graduating and everyone knows what they want to do and they go to college and they kind of have like this, like, you're like, oh, you want to be a doctor? Oh, you want to be like, you already know this? Like, I don't know how to like wash my laundry. Like that is like an insane thing that kind of gets really highlighted. Like you have to know everything about yourself. You have to know what you want to be. And Amelia is just, she's just struggling because she doesn't even feel like she knows herself fully. She doesn't feel like she's come to herself. and realize all the wonderful things about her. And I really wanted Amelia to just be like a comfort character, whereas like a lot of people should relate to her. She has these insecurities that a lot of us have. And a lot of us are told by the people around us, you're great, you're funny, you're smart, you're beautiful. And it's so interesting to me that Amelia and a lot of us, we hear that and we just for some reason disregard it. Like it doesn't matter. We don't believe it. And there's this disconnect of like you get told these things and you don't believe it for some reason. And Amelia is constantly doing that. And so that was something on her journey I really wanted to for her to kind of realize and understand and just love herself, because I know so many people who I view as like these amazing, wonderful people who don't see it. And so, Amelia, I really hope is just like this comfort to people that you can feel that way. That is totally normal. But the same way Amelia goes through her journey, you can too. And she's a little bit of a late bloomer, and there's so many people who are. And I really just hope everyone knows that it's okay. As a late bloomer, it's fine. Like everyone comes to themselves in any point of life, and you can love yourself at any part of your journey.
That's the thing, though. I don't think at 18 you really should know where you want to be for the rest of your life. I don't think I knew where I wanted to be at 18. At 18, I moved to Austria for a year because I had no idea what I wanted to do
Mhm.
at
Yeah,
all.
I
I went
certainly
and I
didn't.
worked in a Berufsverwaltungsschule as a teaching assistant, and I was an au pair. And I came back and I still had no clue what I wanted to do. To be fair, I'm still not quite sure.
Mhm.
And I know so many people who have reached a certain point in their life. My nephew's 27, and he knew from the time he was really young he wanted to be a herpetologist. I didn't even know what a herpetologist was. It's somebody who studies lizards, but that's what he wanted to be. And that is what he now is. He went to university, he did his degree, he got his job, and that's what he now works at. He works for conservation surveyors as a herpetologist.
For
But he
him.
knew what he wanted to do. But then I know so many people who haven't got a clue,
Yeah.
and you kind of coast until you discover that thing. So Amelia not knowing isn't a bad thing, and she seems to perceive it as that because everybody else appears to know what they want or
Yeah, which I
says they know what they want.
yeah, it's like a constant human flaw is that we are comparing ourselves to every single person around us. And like I do it constantly. We all do it.
Oh yeah.
But we're all different people. And that's something that Amelia really comes to terms with. Because when you, and it is difficult, when you see people around you who know what they want to be and know what they want to do and like are reaching or like running toward that path and you don't even know what yours looks like, it just breeds more insecurity and you're just it makes you feel worse. It makes you feel as if you're failing. Whereas, like, life is long and, like, you have plenty of time to figure it out. And I think it's so strange that we place so much pressure on teenagers to figure out who they are at an early age, and then go to college and just, like, immediately figure it out. When, like, adults don't know what they're doing.
No,
So, like, nobody knows what they're doing. Like, we're always growing, we're always learning. And so, Amelia, if she was real, I'd give her a hug and I'm like, listen, you're fine, kid.
yeah, that's in a way, that's why they call it the rat race. It's
Hmm.
not because a rat knows what they're doing, it's because they're all running in exactly the same direction with the same purpose to exist. And that's what's horrifying about we say to over here we do something called options between 14 and 15 years old. It's when you decide what GCSEs you're going to take, and your GCSEs determine your A levels, which determines if you go to university and what course you're going to take. So you're making that decision at 13,
It's
14 years old,
crazy.
and it's like uh I can't even decide how I want to do my hair.
Yeah, that's just insane amount of pressure. I think teenagers and kids, there's so much pressure on them that I wish that when I was younger, somebody was just like, it's okay, relax. But there's this constant pressure from society, from yourself when you see people around you that you just need to have it figured out. And again, nobody does. They say they do, and if they do, they're lying. There's
Yeah,
always something that somebody wants.
that's the thing. I mean, Amelia and Sophia obviously have that conversation where Amelia's, but you know what you want. And yes, Sophia is far more confident in certain things and she has made certain decisions, but that doesn't mean that Amelia having not made them is wrong. And her whole family knows it, but she still feels that pressure because it's almost as though she wants to take that step away. And now, having been given the option of what she initially sees as escape, she's now starting to feel guilty about it.
Mm-hmm.
And you can really feel that in what she says and how she acts and how she reacts with certain people, especially with her aunts. There's that. I think everybody remembers the "you're not the boss of me" moment with their parents. Everybody's had it. If anybody says I never had that moment, I was perfectly behaved, check with your parents because I'm sure the
They'll fact
story
check
is very
you.
different. And Amelia has that moment. And
Yeah.
this is her moment to have it. She's been perfectly well behaved, floating under the radar, literally. And all of a sudden, this has been the catalyst for everything. And I love the fact that it's so organic.
Yeah. Amelia, again, she's so brave because when we think about like how we are and other people, when we have that moment of like, you're not the boss of me, Amelia has that, but she's has all of these aunts and her mom who like, it's not like one figure. She's not standing up to like one singular parent. She's standing up to a whole giant house filled with strong, really opinionated women, and to still be able to face that and still be like, hey, like, I am in charge of me. Like it was just really beautiful to like let her have that moment and her really be like, see, I can stand on my own 2 feet.
Yeah, even if she's not quite that confident about it at that
Yeah.
moment in time. Do you
Mm-hmm.
have a favourite moment that isn't a spoiler?
Let's see. Okay, I'll just say like because it happens really early on. Oh, actually, this okay. This is like a spoiler that happens later, but it's like a 15-second moment.
Hmm.
And it's not plot related, so I'll just say this because I think the romance is super sweet in this, and there is a moment where Amelia, for some reason, does not have like the proper shoes when she's walking, and so Leon takes off his shoes and gives it to her so she can wear his shoes, and so he's like now barefoot, like walking. And it was just such a sweet, tender moment, and I think Leon is just filled with these really tiny moments that feel like just so natural to him. But when you read it, you're like, oh, he's actually really sweet. But for him, it's like second nature the way he
Yeah,
behaves. And so it was just like a really cute moment that I love.
that is a really cute moment. I mean, as you said, the book is full of them though. It's not a case of there's just one. It must be really, really tough to pick out an individual moment and go, that's it. That's the moment that I'm going to say is my all-time favorite,
Yeah, I
because
can't.
there are
I
so
love
many
them
little
all.
things that just make these characters so real. And
No,
I think it sounds awful. My favorite is when she comes home after that disaster date with the bungee and they're all like, "You're trending."
no, it is
Sorry.
really no. Actually, that was really funny. And then like the these being like, "What's trending? Like, what does
Yeah.
that mean?"
But it is so funny because it is something that, I mean, you said that it's something you've experienced as somebody who was dating back in the 80s and early 90s. This wasn't a thing.
You weren't going around getting trapped in midair.
No, I strangely wasn't. I did go to nightclubs and ask random strangers to drive me home.
Danger, stranger danger.
I was when I was what, probably actually the same age as Amelia, so about 18. I lived abroad, barely spoke the language. Used to go out on a Friday night with my friends in a town that was about 20 miles away from where I actually lived, where we both lived. And instead of waiting until 5 a.m. for the next train to come, we'd just go up to random strangers in the bar and ask them if they lived in the town we lived in.
That would be my nightmare, my parents' nightmare, my sister's nightmare,
I wasn't
everyone's
living with my
nightmare.
parents, so
Oh, oh. No, so scary.
So that was the kind of thing that I did to get home.
My
So,
gosh.
but everybody does something weird.
Yes.
So dangerous. Now I wouldn't even dream of it, but when I was 18, 19, I was mostly drunk.
Yeah, and you see, they wanted you making life decisions at that age. That's out of control.
Exactly. See, that's exactly it. But so you mentioned earlier that you literally made gut instinct decisions on the character names apart from Leon. So when you're writing, do you have a strict process? Do you set out that you're going to write a certain amount of words in each day, or do you just is it fly by the seat of my pants? I am going to write what I can write.
Yeah, I am like an agent editor's worst nightmare because for me, no, I hate it. I actually hate this about myself because it feels so typical. Like I'm an artist, but I can't put any kind of pressure on myself. And I am weirdly, I don't know. I when I set myself down, I'm like, you have to do this. I don't know if I'm like rebellious within myself, but I'm like, no, I don't have to. And so I the only structured thing that I ever do is when I have a book idea, I try and condense it into its smallest form. And so first it'll almost look like a summary at the back of a book. And so that way I can see the main thematic points of the story, the beats that I'll hit, the stakes. And if it doesn't sound good enough, then I scrap it. If it does, I try and get it down to 2 sentences, and then I know I'll write that story. I know. So
You
with
write an entire story based on something that you managed to reduce down to 2 sentences.
Yeah, because for me, that means if I can get it down to 2 sentences and it sounds good, that means that the story is going to be a good one because I'm packing so much into this. And then I sit and I write. Like the only other thing that I really focus on is the main character. And I don't know who gave this advice. I read it somewhere. It might have been Susan Dennard, but somebody said, and if I'm wrong, sorry, Susan, but this is great advice to whoever said that. When I'm writing a story, I think about what character would give me a little bit of trouble with getting through whatever journey they have to get on. And so Amelia, she formed first. And so I think of the story in its smallest form. I think of the main character who's going to bring us on that journey and I write. I don't outline, I don't do chapter by chapter, I don't have a structure. I just sit down and if the feeling hits, I'll just keep writing and then I'll keep writing and writing. Some days I feel like I write a couple words, some days I write like 10K. But I have, again, worst nightmare to anyone who has to work with me because I'm like, it's not in here in my brain yet, so I can't write anything. No, if I could change, I would. I swear that I would. I've
You
tried so
say
many times.
so you are a pantser,
Oh,
really.
the biggest pantser. What? Yeah, I truly people who are organized and plotters. I'm like, you guys are phenomenal. Like, I can't. I have to. The character has to bring me on that journey. I have to be in their head. I have to see it from their lens for me to move on. And so I think people who plot are amazing.
But
Not me.
the thing is, that's the thing that I think everybody has their unique style. I was spoke with an author who wrote mysteries and they write everything in Scrivener and it's all planned out in their head.
Do they put it into like did they write it down or was it just in their head?
In their head, the plot.
Oh, I don't
Come
have the
really,
memory
really,
for that.
really, really complex,
Oh my gosh.
multi-threaded mystery, all planned out in their head. And then I've spoken with others who do storyboards and everything else. So I always ask because I used to write fan fiction and a lot of it. I wrote fan fiction for nearly 20 years
I love fan
in
fiction.
multiple fandoms. So started with Buffy, moved to Roswell, Harry Potter, MCU, the lot. I've done all of it. And I never planned anything
Yeah,
because
me
the minute I
either.
started planning it, it got complicated. So I
Yeah,
was a fly by the seat of your pants. Oh, I've got a chapter that I need to post today. I haven't written it yet.
yeah. Very interesting. I also used to write fan fiction. Um,
Which genre?
it would be like what genre? Like romance. Like I would do
No,
like
I should have said which fandom.
really niche nerdy ones. So I'm obsessed with this game called Dragon Age.
I know Dragon Age.
So do you know? Are you into Dragon Age or like by
I
any
know
means?
I'm more an Assassin's Creed girl.
Okay. Which love Assassin's Creed too, but I did Dragon Age ones, and then honestly, I did do One Direction ones at one point. So that was yep. So they're scraped from the internet. But sometimes I wish I kept them so I can. I thought I was pretty fun back then.
Mine
But
are hidden on a live journal, a locked live journal.
oh, you're so brave because I'm like, what if I feel like a conspiracy theorist? Like, what if someone can just access that?
That's
So
the
I
thing. I mean,
scraped
somebody
them
could
clean.
access it, but they wouldn't know it was me.
Yeah. Oh yeah, mine wasn't even in my name either. But
Yeah,
still, I
see,
got so nervous. I'm like, people are gonna know my niche taste.
I think that's the thing. I think that it shows. Uh, I honestly think that fandom was probably one of the best things that happened to me at a point where I needed
Hmm.
that kind of outlet.
Yeah, and fan
And
fiction is such a good source.
it's a really good writing development tool.
Yeah.
It
Also,
also exposes
you
you
had
to
you had
nasty.
constant feedback. Like I used to do chapter by chapter too,
Yeah.
and people would comment on it. So first of all, great motivation. You're like,
Oh
wow, am I
yeah.
a star? But also they would be like, but what about this? And what about this? And I'm like, oh, and it actually was so good at like kind of fostering my love of like writing.
Yeah.
And
I've
I love
actually
fan
got two.
fiction.
In the early days, we had before fanfiction.net and before AO3,
Hmm.
long before AO3. We used to post our fan fiction in Yahoo groups, which don't even
Interesting.
exist anymore. And so you used to post it and it would email it out to every member of the fan fiction group,
Oh, that's so cool.
and then they would respond with feedback in emails. I have actually got two folders this thick full of my fan fiction feedback.
Oh my god, I love that. No, I love fan fiction. I love that community. The best piece of writing I've ever read in my life is a Dragon Age fan fiction that's like over 180,000 words, incomplete.
Oh no,
Um,
that's the worst.
it's the worst, and I still it's by Faye Knight, and it's called Looking Glass. And if this reaches anyone, get them to update because I the best piece of writing I've read in my life. Okay, Shakespeare couldn't even write that. It's amazing.
That's the thing though, sometimes I do the same thing. I still read it because it's a really good, I mean, I read tons of books, but occasionally I will read fan fiction because it's one of the I'll revisit my favorites in the
Hmm.
hope that the authors have finished them.
Yes, it's such a comfort. It's such a not when they don't ever finish them, but it is still a comfort. Yes, I'm still mad about it.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's one of those things I think that really does help you. And sometimes you'll read a book and it's like, this is fan fiction. Last a lot of last chapters of books, you sit there and go, yeah, they did
Yeah.
this for the fans. Not mentioning any names, but there are specific books that have done this. And then you read others and it's like, you could imagine enjoying this on a weekly basis as an installment. I mean, I
Mhm.
don't know if you know, but The Green Mile by Stephen King was published in weekly installments originally.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, my years, and we're talking about back in the early 90s when it first came out, it came out in slender tomes as individual, not chapters, but parts, the same as Dickens published that way.
That's so interesting. That's I've never heard of that. So that's like such a interesting way to
But then
publish.
it
Let's bring
but
that
then
back.
it elicits more feedback and builds more
Hmm.
anticipation. So the more things sell or the more things are read, look at kudos and viewer figures on a fan fiction, for example, and you'll see the anticipation that has been built. And I think that's why when we read something, we are so used to getting everything all in one go. And the same with TV shows now,
Yeah,
where they
yeah.
used to be installments. And if a book can be read that way and you can put it down and you think, I really, really want to read the next bit, you know that you've got something.
Yeah, something special. Yeah, I love it. I love that kind of format. I love that kind of release. I love that kind of writing.
Absolutely. And I noticed on your website you've got two books. One of them, well, both of them are sort of obviously not coming out yet, but you've got one coming out in 2025.
Yes.
So that's two in 2025.
Actually, thanks for bringing this up because I have to update my website because it will be moved a little bit. So it'll be moved. What's 2025? Bag comes out 2026. So it'll be like a year after Bag comes out. My second book will come out, and then I have another book following that, which is Disney. My second book will be with Simon and Schuster as well. But I do have those, and I'm currently working. I'm finishing up that second book, which is if you liked Bag, it is so brilliant. It is so fun. That same kind of like hijinks, really like fun moments that you get, but with an entirely new cast and an entirely different kind of MC. She is like the polar opposite of Amelia in so many ways. So
What is she, Cher
it,
from Clueless?
um, honestly, no, but I don't know if I'll just say think of like a Legally Blonde kind of vibe. Um, yeah, that's what I'll say. It's just that's kind of the vibe that I was
Oh, she's
going
kind of
with.
an Elle Woods.
Mm,
That's intriguing.
so
Because I think
yeah,
Elle Woods is
hopefully,
one of the, she is a great character.
yeah,
There is something
hopefully I
so
can tell you more soon, really soon. Whom knows?
really soon, but this, yeah, that's the thing though, isn't it? I think that one, it's quite difficult for the audience as the reader to actually the publishing process is quite long winded, not for every publisher but for quite a number of them. There's that very, very long road to the actual publication date. So books start being sent out for promotional purposes and everything 5 or 6 months beforehand.
Mhm.
And then by that point, you as the author have already started or possibly finished the next book on the list.
Yeah, by the time it's reaching readers in that early capacity, when I think about it, I wrote Bag 3 years ago, and now people are reading it. That first initial draft with my agent, we went on sub and we sold it. And then it takes usually your average when you sell a book is 2 years after that. And so people reading it now, I started it so long ago, it's a really strange and warm feeling. And then also, even the version that, like the bag that you have, it will
Yeah.
be relatively the same, but I also am going to like that will be edited a little bit even more by the time the final copy comes out. And so books are really strange in that you're working on them for years, it's constantly changing. But you're also on a contract for different books. So I am wrapping up book number 2, and then I'll be on book number 3, like probably at the end of this month. Whereas Bag hasn't even come out yet.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I think that one of the things that I always find really interesting is you look at the timeline for publication on some books, it's really, really quick. Perfect example, Fourth Wing, Iron Flame, seven
Yeah.
months difference in the publishing dates.
Those are very I props to them for being able to write, edit, and do that whole production process in that time. Yeah, certain publishers will do it. If you're like a really popular author and you're on like a different deadline, you'll when you sell probably be like a year or less. The average will probably be if you're like a debut like me, it'll probably be like 2 years, 2 3 years.
That's the thing. I think that obviously once you've got the debut done, you're no longer a debut author.
I know. Ah, so weird.
How do you feel about the whole? Obviously, it's not something you are familiar with, even though you work in marketing. This is the other side of it.
It's really strange. It's also my dog finally made an appearance. She wanted to come say hello. It is very strange, especially because I work in publishing. Being on this side is a little different because when I'm working on books, I want the author to want to be perceived. I want them to get out there as much as they can. And obviously, I want that for myself too. But it makes me kind of check myself when I'm asking for things. I'm like, do I have the confidence to do this? Am I up to doing this myself? And like seeing both sides of it. And then I also see the behind the scenes work. And so I, as an author, know what to look for and what is not attainable and like things like that. So it's definitely humbling. And I I feel a lot more informed, like I feel a lot more prepared than maybe some other authors because I get that kind of behind the scenes view. So it makes me set my expectations very realistically.
But does it make you feel more confident going out there? Especially as you're talking
Honestly,
about your, in a way, it's your baby.
yeah. It's weird. It's both scary and not because I have these expectations. I kind of don't set myself up for anything, but it is when I write, and maybe it's different for other people. It is like an emotional thing. You put a lot of love and care into your book, and so obviously you want it to do well, and it's strange to be perceived in a certain way because I think once you write the book, it has been yours that whole time. But once it's out in the world, it's up for interpretation by anyone, and so people can see your work and read it and see things and pick up on things that you didn't intend to, or they cannot see the things that you really wanted them to
Yeah.
resonate with, and they don't connect in that way. And so I think it's a little nerve wracking for me in that sense because I'm like, yeah, of course, I want people to feel comfort when they read anything from me. I want them to enjoy it. Um, but also, I understand that that's not the case. And so I am both humbled and terrified. Um, at the same time, nervous, but also pretty. Some days I'm so chill. I'm like, oh, if you read it, you read it. If you don't, you don't. And then some days I'm like, wow, what if I just like stared at the ceiling for 10 hours straight and did nothing else? So it's an incomparable experience. Yeah, it's so strange.
But it's also, I suppose, there's that element of, well, I'm not going to go on Goodreads.
Oh, I learned that very early on. Because my friends all published before me, and I have seen what a review can do to them. Um, and that is not my space. Once I write it, there's nothing I can do, and it's up for anyone to feel how they want to feel. I just don't have to see it, and so I don't even have that app. I don't have it. I don't look at it. I hope that people enjoy it, and if you don't, that you have every right to. But I will never know.
I think
I'll
that's the thing.
never know.
That's it though, isn't it? They do say, and they've been very, it's been something that has been released far more often in the last year or so. Goodreads is for the reader,
Yeah,
not the author. And I think that that is probably a good message to send.
yeah, that is not our space, and I really respect it. And I think as a reader as well, like that space is for me, like as a reader, when I'm reading books to have a community and kind of really recommend something I really like, or like just say, oh, I don't like this. And that is a special community. And I think I don't want to ever infringe upon that now that I'm in a different space. And also, it's not my business. It's if people don't like it or if they do, it's not my business. I think the only time I've ever interacted with a reader is if they personally reach out to me and I feel like, okay, you're tagging me, you're calling me, you don't mind this kind of interaction, but I will never go seeking it. I really respect the readers. And I also don't want to make them uncomfortable. If I was in that community and an author was in there, I would feel so watched and so weird. So that is, again, not my business. You guys say anything you want.
Yeah, that's it. Years ago, I think before Goodreads was really a big thing, Kelly Armstrong, you know, who writes
Yes.
the other Women of the Other World and a load of
Mhm.
other stuff. She had her own website and she had a forum on it, and she interacted and engaged
Oh,
with
that's
the
interesting.
readers because there was no other method. I mean, back in, because Amazon's been around for what, 22 years?
Oof, crazy.
Yeah, I know, and I've had an account since that point, but it's been around that long, but this was kind of before that way of communicating with authors and readers existed, and she had a forum on her website where fans could communicate, and she
Yeah.
managed it. So it was, I think it was slightly different, but people were a lot nicer.
Yeah. Yeah. So
That's
interesting, but
perfect.
yeah, you'll never catch me there. If you want to reach me, You reach me directly.
That's probably the sensible way to go, I think. So, on that note, where can people find out more about Build a Girlfriend and your upcoming projects? Do you have socials as well as the website?
Me too. So my website is just elbaluz.com. And then all of my socials you can find me is Elba with an L and then another L for loose. So Elba L Loose is my username on everything. You can find me there and I'll talk about books. I'll talk about my books. I'll talk about my dog, video games, and everything I should not be doing when I'm on deadline.
Well, you have to have a break occasionally.
Yeah, yeah. But if you see me, I look like I'm constantly on break.
I think that's the thing. I look like I'm always online when I'm at work, but to be fair, I manage our Facebook, our LinkedIn, and our Twitter
Yeah,
accounts.
you're
So
working. You see, you're working.
exactly. To be fair, I normally am because the accounts are logged in through slightly differently, and I can log into both at the same time. But I am normally working, honestly. That sounds really bad because my one of my co-workers does listen to this.
Sorry, coworker.
I do honestly work. Otherwise, you wouldn't see the posts.
To clarify, we both work.
Yes, we
Just
both
want
we
that on
both
the
work.
record.
Exactly,
Work.
we both work.
So,
Well, thank you so much for coming on to
thank
talk about this.
you.
I really did enjoy it. I'm not probably the intended audience for this book either, because I am probably older than the TTs in the carrying book.
No, but bag is intended to be enjoyable for a lot of ages, and that's why the aunts are there. And my family loves it, my titis love it, and I really want it to be. You could probably read that book with a like with your parents and things like that. I want it to be enjoyable to anyone who picks it up. There's probably going to be one character that you can resonate with, regardless of your age.
Absolutely, and obviously they're characters that you can really feel for, because there are moments that you're going to go, oh god, yeah, I remember feeling like that.
Yeah.
Or that's happened to me. I remember that moment. Yes, I did feel that way. So I think that is what's great about it. But thank you so much for coming on and talking about Build a Girlfriend, which comes out on the 14th of January.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
14th. I have written it down.
Me too. Thank you so much. No, it's been so fun.
It's always good to talk books and find out how
Yes.
different every single author is when it comes to their writing processes and everything else. I think that it just proves how unique every single person is when it comes
Yes.
to their craft. So, again, thank you so much for
Thank
coming on.
you.
Bye.
Bye.